So sometimes decks can be insanely expensive. We've got stuff like Sky Strikers costing way over 150 for like loads and loads of different cards. You've got things like Sky Striker Engage and all that sort of stuff. Extra deck monsters like Borreload, but there are still always going to be decks that are very affordable. What's up guys, my name is Alex and I invite you over to my top 5 budget decks for August 2018. So if you agree with these top 5s, then please just put in the comment section below and leave a like. And if I missed anything out, then yeah, feel free to tell me what decks are good. So I'm going to go over the rules quickly. So the rules: there is no reason for the deck to be hit on the next ban list. It must be under £50, €60 or $70, not be meta, easy to use, and have a clear win condition. So without further ado, let's go straight to it. Coming in at number 5, I have Element Sabers. Now, a lot of the time, people are up and down with this deck. They think that it's quite bad, but personally, I just think this deck is so much fun to play. You can use that Layer of Darkness field spell in the deck because the trap card allows you to tribute a monster, and due to it being a tribute, you can then use your opponent's monster as a tribute. The Elemental Lords are actually pretty good. You've got now Phosphorage, which can now, pretty much blow up the field. And you've got Grand Sword that got what's it called, an errata. This deck is actually so much fun to play and doesn't really require much of an extra deck as well. Like the cards you can pretty much pick up for a few pounds each, or even play sets of cards for a couple of quid, and it's consistent as well. It's just a really fun deck altogether. Coming in at number 4, I have Counter Fairy. Now, only reason why I put Counter Fairy in this video is just mainly because of the amount of reprints that have came in. So now Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, and Solemn Judgment is now off the field, off the ban list, and have all had loads of reprints. There's a chance that there's always going to be a high chance that you can just get the cards for very cheap. Plus, Card of Demise got a reprint recently, and this deck is an absolute pain in the ass to play against because of the amount of times you can just flip over stuff like Solemn Strike and all those sorts of stuff and pay absolutely nothing for them because of Guiding Ariadne, preventing you from having to pay costs for using your trap cards. It's so much fun to play, and it's just so easy at the same time. It's like, okay, I'm going to put down a ton of face down trap cards, try and stop me. And it's just really, really fun to play. Coming in at number 3, I have Crusader, an actual new deck that's came into the agenda here. Crusader right now is a very, very affordable deck that, in my opinion, is so much fun to play. When I've played against this deck, I've just been like, well, I'm going to be OTK'd now. Crusader just OTKs instantly. Like, the effects of Equimax just allows you just to, like, deal stuff like double damage and all this sorts of stuff. It's pretty disgusting, and of course you play like so many copies of each card, so stuff like Pot of Desires just goes really, really well. Each card has a similar effect as well, so it's very simplistic, which makes it really good. And the only real extra deck monsters you really need are the Crusader ones, which are again very, very affordable. So this is why I put Crusader on here. It's a simple OTK deck that isn't really expensive for the extra deck. Coming in at number 2, there's no reason why I'm not going to put this in. This has always been my favourite deck of all time, which is Lightsworn. I could talk about this deck for hours and hours and hours. There have been tons and tons of reprints for cards over and over again. Minerva now, since Dagrastic Screener is banned, is pretty damn cheap now. And of course, Brilliant Fusion receiving that secret reprint alongside Seraphonite, it's a very, very affordable deck. Because beforehand, Brilliant Fusions were like £15 each, which was ridiculous, and Seraphonites were expensive, but now, like, you've got the cards going for like a couple quid each. It's really, really cheap. Plus, Judgment Dragon's your win condition here. It just blows up the field and then just attacks directly. Plus, it's not a hard once per turn, bear that in mind. Plus, now there's actually some combos with Isolde that you can create Naturia Beast and Minerva on the same turn, which is just really good. And Naturia Beast in this current format is a beautiful card, especially against stuff like Trickstar and Sky Strikers, which is really good. And then Omega, again, best synchro in the game, is just so easy to go into. Plus, adding on to that, loads of the Lightsworn cards beforehand, like Raiden, were actually relatively expensive because it was super rare. Now, loads of the Lightsworns have received tons and tons of reprints. It's insanely cheap. So, before we go into number one, I do have a few honorable mentions. Now, the reason why I didn't put these decks on here was mainly just because they're near competitiveness and honestly my worry of the later future if they come back, which go to True Draco, ABC, and Spiral. Spiral being my favorite one out of the three. True Draco is a deck that has actually somewhat came back to, I don't know, more of a rogue kind of deck now, because Dragonic Diagram received a reprint and is now very affordable, and stuff like Dynamite Knight is now at 1 and Ignis Heat went back to 3. The deck is really good, and loads of these continuous spells are like Rivalry of Warlords is just so good in this deck. ABC is similar. I mean, to be honest, it's a very helmet deck by only summoning ABC Buster Dragon, but again, it's a really powerful deck. In fact, you could chuck stuff like Invoked in there, and in fact, I would have even put Invokes on here, but it's loads of different variants with it. It's very confusing. But ABC again is a really good deck. Spiral, on the other hand, again, is very cheap now, but to be fair, the only reason why I didn't put this on here, again, is competitiveness and stuff like the Nightmares. If you don't have Nightmares, you're really missing out on the full play that you can make. So coming in at number one, I have Mermails, and I really would have loved to put this on my previous like top 5 list. But the reason why I put Mermails on here is because Mermails have now received so many reprints from stuff like Shadows in Valhalla, which just makes them so cheap. And of course, the Atlanteans in the deck just makes it so good. You can make some really explosive plays and just completely OTK your opponent. It's really good. And then Sekka's Light variants is really good. Like, there's actually a few people that I do know that run Sekka's Light in the deck, which again means that they're not running any other spell cards, which just makes the deck really good. And then, of course, you've got stuff like Totally Awesome in there, and the Starboy and all that sort of stuff. So you can actually go into some pretty good extra deck monsters. And plus, these extra deck monsters, now Totally Awesome is relatively cheap. And the Starboy is like a common. There's no reason why you can't get those. Anyway, that is it for this top 5. If you enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe for some more content. Anyway, my name is Alex, and I'll see you guys later. Au revoir.